at there's a verse that I've had in my mind, a couple verses for the last couple days, not days, weeks. I've been pondering this. And the more I study this book of Nehemiah, the more I see Jesus. I see God's redemptive plan in a whole lot of things. And but there's just some verses that have been sticking out in my mind. Some verses that are very, very important. Nevertheless, if you haven't attended Bible studies on Wednesday, let me tell you what we're doing there, just because it kind of relates to the sermon. We're basically looking at different books, including a lot of Old Testament passages, and we're having to look at God's redemptive plan, his plan for salvation, how it's like present everywhere. And it's just being unfolded like right in front of us. And it's been something wonderful. Honestly, I'm learning a lot myself. I'm learning a lot. I was sharing with Sister Lupe the other day, I think I need to write a book about all this. Because, take all my notes, put them in a book, just because it's been good. And it's not because of me. It's been the revelation God has just been pouring. Anyways, so as I'm going through the book of Nehemiah, I'm looking at a whole lot of things, and I'm seeing God's redemptive plan there. So, just a few things, I don't know about you, but sometimes living the Christian life, you have opposition, right? Nobody or just me? And this week, let me tell you, I had quite a bit of opposition. Quite a bit. Just very, simply, one thing, my daughter got some type of bug. She got kind of sick there. She said, don't talk about her, but sorry, And so, here I am. I'm having to, be back and forth from work and go check on her. And then, finally, the district nurse made he's like, you know what, don't worry about it. I'll test her, because they want a test. They want a COVID test. And they're looking at me like, aren't you going to test too, kind of, So I was like, okay, test me. And I said, Lord, I have way too many things for me to come out positive on this. This, I'm above this. This cannot touch me, cannot touch my daughter. It's funny because I was talking to my students, and they said, they're like, how about if your test is positive? How about if your daughter's test is positive? Because I told them, hey, I'm sorry if I'm on my phone. I have to attend to my baby. So they kind of laughed. They're like, how's your baby? 15. Anyways, so they're like, well, what if you guys test positive? I was like, well, you better pray that we don't. And because you know what? I think the students, even though, they may not say it, after a while, having subs for time and time and time and time again, they get tired, They get tired of it. So then, the test came in negative. Both of them, she's there, she's way better. Anyways, why am I telling you this? Because, there was pressing on like every side. And that was just one thing that, that I encountered this week. But, John 16:33 says, these things I have spoken to you, that this is Jesus speaking, that in me you may have peace. That you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation. You're going to have pressing, spiritual, physical pressing on every side. Is basically, you can have this. He said, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. So I'm here to tell you today that whatever it is that you're encountering, there is peace for you. There's peace for your mind. There's peace for your body. There's peace for your surroundings. There you will overcome. There's victory. With overcoming, there's victory. There's triumph for you. No matter what the thing is, there is triumph for you. It's in the word. He said it, and I'm going to believe it. So I start with that because now I'm going to go to the book of Nehemiah. And we're going to read, and I'm going to try not to keep you here so long. I have already been warned. I think I've been warned like every, I see the clock. Okay. Ooh, 39 minutes. So let me tell you a little bit about Nehemiah. Nehemiah, he is a cupbearer for King. Now, you must forgive me if I say the names wrong, okay? Artaxerxes? Did I say it right? More or less? He's the king, he's the cupbearer. What does that mean? That means that he tastes the wine, he tastes whatever he's going to consume, whatever he's going to eat. It has to go through Nehemiah first. He has to taste it, because if they're trying to poison the king, they're going to know, because Nehemiah's going to fall dead. Bam. So I guess they hadn't attempted to, or failed, who knows, right, at actually poisoning the king, because Nehemiah was still there. So he was the cupbearer for the king. Nehemiah was. And so Nehemiah, he lives probably either in the quarters of the king or close to there, right? Because he has to be ready for when the king asks for him. So, because he might say, oh, you know what? I want to eat this piece of cake right here, but you got to taste it first, right? He's got to be ready. So Nehemiah gets a visit from a friend, and basically the friend, this is during the time of after the Babylonian exile, and they're being released. All these Jews are being released to Jerusalem. They're being let go. So, and the book of Ezra is kind of goes hand in hand with this one, but I'm not going to focus on that one, okay? We'll do that in Bible study. So he gets a friend, and he comes over here to visit him and tells him, basically our city, our walls are destroyed and we're suffering, et cetera, et cetera. So then Nehemiah gets this huge burden in his heart. Like, he weeps. And then the word tells us that he was weeping and praying for months. And if you go from chapter 1 to chapter 2, it's exactly 4 months. He was weeping, he was praying about this burden. I'm kind of reminded of COVID kind of messed up a few things, right? It disrupted our schedules. So before, we used to have Wednesday night Bible studies, and that was one of the things that was kind of slow to get started again. And, I was trying to press the pastors. I was trying to push them. And I would say, hey, when are you guys starting Bible study again? And I don't know, and we kept, it's because of the situation here. And I kept pressing, where, come on. And then I thought, Lord, well, you're putting this, because I'm trying to pressure them, hey, start Bible study. But I'm trying to not say it flat out. But I think they probably knew, right, that I'm trying to push them. So then I finally said one time to Pastor Shauna, I said, you know what? Let me pray about this. Let me pray about this, because maybe the Lord is trying to tell me something, right? So sure enough, and then, I was led by the Lord. Yeah, go ahead. You know what? You lead Bible studies. I said, okay, Lord. It could have been, it took Nehemiah 4 months. It took me about a year and a half. It took me about a year and a half. Anyways, but nevertheless, it happened, right? But he had a burden, and he prayed about it. He prayed about it, and he decided, you know what? It took him 4 months for him to take any decisive action. You know what this tells me? It's sometimes we rush into things. And we must not. We really need to take the time and pray and seek God about it. You can have a burden about something going on, but, then it's your role to ask the Lord, hey, Lord, what do you want me to do regarding this? Right? So by the time, 4 months later, one time Nehemiah was really burdened, and you can feel it. You can see it on his face. So then the king asked him, hey, what's going on with you? How come you're so sad? What's going on? So then he told them, well, it's because, my people, they're kind of suffering over there. And then the wall is in shambles and it was broken and torn and so forth, right? He says, why? In verse 3, in Nehemiah 2:3. So I'm skipping a little, okay? Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lies waste and its gates are burned with fire? So basically, why? Look, the place of my ancestors, it's all rubble. It's bad. It was burned. Why should I not be sad about that? And then the king says to him in the next verse, what do you request? In other words, look at in those 4 months, God was actually working with this king too. In those 4 months, softened this king's heart enough to say, ask what you will, and I will give it to you. And by that time, Nehemiah was ready. But look at what he said. It says here, so he said, what do you request? So I prayed to God, to the God of heaven, and I said, now I'm going to read this, and I'm going to come back to this because it's so important, okay? If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, I ask that you send me to Judah, the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it. Then the king said to me, the queen also sitting beside me, how long will your journey be, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Furthermore, I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given to me for the governors of the region beyond the river, that they must permit me to pass through till I come to Judah. And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he must give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel, which pertains to the temple, for the city wall, and for the house that I will occupy. And the king granted them to me according to the good hand of my God upon me. Okay, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. And I want you to get excited about this, because he went to the king and he told them, I want this and this and this and that. And the king said, permission granted. Not only that, you're going to get letters that are going to give you authority to do all the tasks that you need to do to accomplish the tasks set before you. God had indeed called Nehemiah to build the wall. He called him to build the wall. There is a call. Just like there is a call for your life, there is a call for my life, there's a call for all of us. And I want you to look back, because the king granted him access and gave him all that he would need. Are you grasping that? Just like God has given you access to all of his promises. And he says to you, what is it that you would need? You need this? Okay, here it is. And he will provide all that you would need so that you are able to accomplish what is being set before you.